Earlier this week, I got to add another legend to our Legends list in the Legends Series here on YourPrimetimeSports.com. And I got to drive over to the other side of Memphis, over in Collierville, to sit down and visit with the most famous fisherman ever, Bill Dance. Now, I want to say this before we go to the interview. My cameraman and I, David Dupuis, went over there, set everything up in his television studio. Oh, it's awesome. He's got a show on the NBC Sports Network, and he's also going to have that show or a show similar to it next year, after the first of the year, on the Outdoor Channel as well. And he shoots the studio stuff right there where we were this week. Now, I had it all set up. We had the cordless mics. We were using the cordless mics, and everything was rocking along. And about midway through the interview, something around us, whether it was in his studio or just outside or something, began to interfere with his cordless mic. So you will hear about halfway through the interview, you'll start to hear a little bit of static on Bill's mic. I cleaned it up the best I could. It still exists on the recording, and it's in some places it's not that prevalent, and in a couple of places you hear it pretty good. So I'm giving you that disclaimer before we go into the interview that yes, there is static in this thing.
So the whole second half has got static in it?
It's got static in it. We didn't have headphones on, so we were holding cordless mics. We had no way of knowing that it was happening. And I got home and started doing the editing of the interview, and that's when I discovered that we had that problem we didn't know we had at the time.
Why don't you guys wear these headsets and eliminate that?
Because the guys that we interview for this particular segment, the Legends segment, they don't want to wear the headsets. They don't want to. One of us could, I guess, wear a headset and give them a cordless mic, and then we would know when something like that's going on. But you're sidetracking me. We're going to fix that problem in the future.
I'm not sidetracking you.
This particular interview will have a little bit of audio technical difficulties, starting about halfway through the interview and intermittent through the rest of the way. Nothing I can do about it. Cleaned it up the best I could. Hope you enjoy it anyway. Here is my conversation with Bill Dance.
As a boy in Tennessee, Bill Dance loved to fish, and by the mid-1960s his angling skills were creating a sensation in local circles. When Ray Scott began searching for 100 top-notch anglers to participate in his first bass tournament, Bill's name kept popping up. Dance fished that 1967 tournament, the All-American Bass Invitational, and within 2 minutes of lines in the water, he had caught the first bass in the first ever bass tournament. This was the dawning of professional bass fishing and Bill Dance's dominance of the B.A.S.S tournament trail. In the 14 years he fished the tour, Bill set many records. He won 23 national titles. Of 78 total B.A.S.S entries, he finished in the money 64 times. In 1968, he won 3 events. In 1969, he won 2, and the first of 3 Angler of the Year titles. The sport of bass fishing was less than a decade old, but Bill Dance was already a legend. In 1970, Bill became a full-time professional, teaching seminars and entertaining vendors for plastic worm innovator Nick Cream. He was also busy putting together, almost single-handedly, his television show, Bill Dance Outdoors, which he launched in 1968. Bill was a natural on TV. His love of the sport and his irrefutable skills were unmistakable, and the program was an immediate success. 38 years and 2,000 shows later, Bill, in his jeans, sneakers, polo shirt, sunglasses, and trademark University of Tennessee baseball cap, is one of fishing's most recognizable icons. He's continued to share his knowledge in 7 books, articles in major outdoor magazines, and more than 36 videos, including 3 popular blooper shows. Bill is an idol to millions of anglers, the perfect fishing buddy.
Well, John, golly, broke my back and my leg, and now I broke my rod. Oh.
He's been described as offbeat, humble, and charming, as good with people as he is with fish. He'll tell you that fishing has been his life, that it's afforded him the opportunity to meet the greatest people, other fishermen. He'll tell you that fishing is a spiritual thing that brings the people who do it closer together. And he'll also tell you that his biggest thrill was being present when all of his children caught their first fish. For his unprecedented achievements, his remarkable aptitude for education and entertainment, and for the passion and enthusiasm he continues to share as one of sport fishing's most outstanding ambassadors, IGFA salutes Bill Dance.
Folks, I love my job. This Legends Series is taking me all over to talk to folks that I grew up watching and idolizing, and I've got another one here on Your Primetime Sports today. This is Bill Dance. I cannot believe you agreed to this. We're just flabbergasted.
I'm happy as a rabbit in a lettuce fish to be here with you.
I'm so glad you came on. I've got a lot of stuff I want to ask you.
Well, fire away.
Okay, well, I mean, we were doing research, and I found at least 4 different halls of fame that you have been inducted to. Am I wrong, or is there more?
I think there's several.
4 halls of fame.
Yeah.
In fact, I want to bring that up so I can quote those off. You're a member of the International Game Fish Association's Hall of Fame.
That's probably the most prestigious.
Okay. You're a member of the National Freshwater
Right.
Hall of Fame.
Right.
The B.A.S.S Fishing Hall of Fame.
Right.
And the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame.
Right.
That may be a record. I don't know of any athlete in any sport that has ever been inducted into that many Hall of Fames. One person.
Well, if you've been around 100 years, it's not too hard.
100 years. Now, you're not that old. I mean, I grew up watching you. David, my cameraman, grew up watching you. Tons of people have grown up watching you, but you haven't. 1960, what was it that it said on there? Was your first tournament?
Well, we started outdoor television back in 1968 on
Right.
ABC affiliate here locally in the Memphis market on WHBQ. And then, that rocked along for quite a while, and then we picked up one of their sister stations down in Jackson, Mississippi, and then another sister station, WBRZ in Baton Rouge, Channel 2, and then a station up in Paducah, Kentucky, another ABC affiliate, said, hey, you mind doing one for us? And I said, no. So I was doing 4 markets, 52 weeks a year, 208 shows a year.
So were you doing different shows for the different channels? Or
Yeah, there was the same video, or actually it was filmed back then, 16 millimeter. I would go into Paducah and I'd tape 4 shows. And while I was up there, I might shoot a show at Reelfoot, and then I might run over to Kentucky Lake and do something. And then I'd come back home, and I'd tape 4 shows while I was there. J.C. Penney was in the sporting goods. They had sporting goods in their stores at that time, and J.C. Penney was a sponsor at that time. And then I'd come back to Memphis and had a big discount store in the Memphis area, Fabulous Surplus City. And it was a big discount chain. And then down in Jackson, I had a big sporting good outfit that was a sponsor. And then when I'd go to Jackson, I'd do Memphis every week. I'd run to Jackson. And Jackson was kind of it was a blessing because it was the state capital. The governor was a big fisherman. Billy Joe Cross was the commissioner, game and fish, and boating commissioners were there. And I could pull guests. And I would go there and tape 4 shows at the local station there. And I would take video from Ross Barnett and over on the Mississippi River, like Lake Show 1 and at Lake Lee, Lake Washington up and down.
Lots of different lakes down there to pick from,
pull from. And then I would boogie it on down to Channel 2 down at Baton Rouge, WBRZ. And of course that was the capital. And I had a lot of people there with the game and fish that I knew, and I could pull guests from there. And then I'd run on maybe down to the Gulf and do stuff there. So I had a lot to pull from, and I would show tapes or shows from, Louisiana, Mississippi, the Memphis area, up around Kentucky, up on the Mississippi, Reelfoot, Kentucky Lake, and then I would intermix it. But I was doing, like, as I said, 4 shows a week, 52 weeks a year, 208 shows a year. And I mean, I was just passing myself and still trying to compete in the tournaments.
And all this while you were fishing in the very first professional bass tournament.
All that was going on, back in the late 60s and the early 70s. And finally, we syndicated Bill Dance Outdoors into 50 and then to 90 network markets. And that kind of eased it up a little bit.
Shoot one show and send it to everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
And And then that rocked along for a period of time, and then the cost of syndication just skyrocketed.
Right.
And cable was coming on. So then we moved Bill Dance Outdoors to ESPN. Well, ESPN, the demographics it was a great network, and it still is, but the demographics just weren't there. We hit the household, New York, Philadelphia, Chicago, Denver, Spokane.
And they were watching it in those big cities.
We hit it, from Los Angeles to Dallas to Phoenix to all the way to Miami, up the eastern seaboards. We hit all the major the major markets, but the demographics just weren't there. And then TNN, the Nashville network,
which is now Spike TV,
right, popped up, and we picked up some major sponsors. We picked up Chevrolet. We picked up Walmart. We hit that perfect niche, that perfect demographic.
Exact target audience.
Right. Country western music, bull riding, NASCAR, and country western, just perfect. A lot of those entertainers, they were hunters, they were fishermen, and we just hit the perfect niche, the perfect demographics. And so we moved Bill Dance from ESPN over to TNN and for 15 years, and that's where we ran for a long, long time. Then Viacom bought them out, moved them to New York. The Gaylord Enterprises, just that whole network kind of went away. Then we moved to OLN, the Outdoor Life Network,
which is not really widely carried like on cable networks and stuff.
Well, then it was, and then it changed to Versus.
Right.
And then NBC Sports bought them out, which is now NBC Sports.
Which is where you are now, right?
Right.
Is that right?
With Freshwater. See, our Freshwater, we do 26 original Freshwater shows on NBC Sports, and then we do 13 saltwater shows for NBC Sports. Well, next year we're going back to the Outdoor Channel with our saltwater series, so 13 original shows on the Outdoor Channel in saltwater, and we'll continue with 26 original freshwater shows on NBC Sports. So we'll be doing 39 original shows, and that's a ton of shows.
We're going to have to jockey to get on one of these shows with him. I would love to go fishing with you sometime.
Well, I tell you what,
see if we can work that out.
We go. We go. I tell you, we just got back from a 2-week shoot in Florida, and so we're scheduling another shoot probably the next week or so.
So you've been on television continuously since 1968.
Yeah.
Not a year in there. Did you take a break or
late
or
60, 69? For 46 years we've been doing
that is amazing.
Bill Dance Outdoors.
That is
for
amazing.
a long, long time.
But when you were a kid, you didn't say when you were a kid, I want to be on TV when I grow up. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to fish, and my mother used to say, "You're never going to mount to anything but a river rat." And I was so fortunate that I had a daddy and a granddaddy that introduced me to this sport, and they gave me the most wonderful gift of all, and that was teaching me how to fish. And I never dreamed that I could turn a hobby into a profession. The bass tournaments that came along in the late 60s, it all started over at Beaver Lake near Springdale, Arkansas.
Right, great lake, big old huge striper lake.
Right, and I participated in that tournament, the very first one, and as luck would have it, I led that tournament for the first 2 days, and I finished second in that tournament. A good buddy of mine, Stan Sloan, the late Stan Sloan, who started Zorro Bait Company. I don't know if you ever remember that bait company. But
vaguely, yeah.
Yeah, he was a great guy, and he started that bait company, and then he won that tournament. And then right after that, there was another tournament up on Kentucky Lake, and I participated in that and finished second in it. And then Ray Scott had another tournament at Smith Lake near Jasper, Alabama, and I participated in it.
You just got around.
Well, I did.
All the different tournaments they had, you were there.
Well, I was the first three, and then I had 3 seconds. And then I got a call from a bait company, Head and Tackle Company, which made all the old-timey baits and Lucky 13s and the Zero Spooks and all the old-timey baits to go to work for them. And another company in Tyler, Texas, Cream Lure Company, the originators of the plastic worm.
You made them famous.
Well, they made they were the originators. And so 50% of the fish I was catching back then were on plastic worms. And so Diane and I went to Tyler, Texas, and stayed with Nick and Cosma Crean for 3 days. And he offered me a job to go to work for him, to travel and fish with buyers and compete in the tournaments and do promotions. And I thought, my goodness, this is what I've always wanted to do. It was a dream come true, and that started my career.
Competitive fishing wasn't really prevalent, if at all, when you first started. Were there any competitions in fishing of any kind before you actually got into it?
There were some tournaments that had been held, World Series of tournaments. Virgil Ward had competed in some tournaments, championship fishing. Virgil was doing a show out of Missouri, and another fellow from southern Missouri, Glenn Andrews, had competed in some earlier tournaments, but they didn't have the recognition that Ray Scott had when he started B.A.S.S. That had just a tremendous impact on the industry, and it just continued to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow, and look at where it is today.
Well, when you were younger, before you jumped into competitive fishing, were you watching those?
No.
Do you have any idea?
I didn't even know what a tournament really was. And then when I got an invitation to compete in that first tournament, I got a call. You had been invited to participate in the the Beaver Lake Invitational Tournament, and I went to my boss and I said, "Look, I've got an invitation to participate in a big fishing tournament." And he said, and I was a jobber salesman working for a distributor here in Memphis, and he said, "Well, your sales are up. I'll let you go." So he let me go to that particular event.
His decision changed your life.
Well, it was funny. I got a call from a guy by the name of Oscar Oakley. You probably never heard of him. He owned Hull Dobbs Ford, and Hull Dobbs was the single biggest Ford dealer in the United States. Today, you've heard of Oakley Ford.
I have.
Yeah. Okay. Oscar Oakley owned Hull Dobbs, and that was the biggest single Ford dealer in the United States. And he called me, and he said, "Hello, Bill, Oscar Oakley." "Huh? How are you, Mr. Oakley?" He said, "I own and president of Hull Dobbs Ford." And I went, I knew who that was. Yeah. He said, "I'd like for you to come over to my office at your convenience." And I said, "Sure." So I went by his office, and I walked in, and the carpet was about that thick, and he had a big burl-looking walnut desk that a racehorse couldn't jump over. And I walked up, and he said, "Have a seat." He said, "I understand there's going to be a big tournament over in northwest Arkansas." Henry Reynolds, our outdoor editor at that time, Commercial Appeal, had been writing a lot about it. And I said, "Yes." And he said, "I'd like to sponsor you in that event." And I said, "Sponsor me?" I didn't know what he's talking about. He said, "I'd like to pay your entry fee in that event and all your expenses." And I said, "Well, I certainly do appreciate it." And so he sponsored me in that first event, paid all my expenses, my entry fee and everything. And I finished, like I say, second. First place was $2,000. Second place was $1,000. Well, I came back and went to his office to pay him back, and he wouldn't accept it. And he said, "The next event, I'll sponsor you in that." And so he did. And the third event, he called me again and said, "I want to sponsor you." By the third time, I was making my mind up. But Oscar Oakley really kind of helped kickstart it, along with the support I got.
How had he heard of you prior to?
It'd been articles that I'd been newspaper locally. It'd been Henry Reynolds, our outdoor editor, had been writing articles and things. And
so you got his attention.
Yeah.
Wow.
So everything, just
a sequence of events that happened.
Absolutely.
That all happened right there, very close together.
Absolutely.
That have led you to where you are today. That's amazing.
And just associating myself with people a whole lot smarter than me, and working with people that were a whole lot smarter than me. That's been my success. You're only as good as the people that you work with.
You also have to have the talent, and you know how to catch fish.
Well, sometimes I wonder. But I think experience is the greatest teacher in the world. The more you do of any one thing, and if you've got the desire and the determination, that goes a long way. But I don't care how determined you are. You're not going to be successful every time. You know, I think, and I know you love sports because you're into it. If you'll remember, one of the greatest football coaches of all times was Vince Lombardi, who coached the Green Bay Packers years and years ago. He was a sensational coach. And he used to pound it into his players. One thing, he'd tell them over and over and over again. He said, winning is achieved through determination. And he'd tell them that every day through the season. What did I tell you yesterday? Winning is achieved through determination, Coach. What did I tell you yesterday? Winning is achieved through determination. He preached that. And, you know, and that's a good thing to believe. Winning is achieved. But, you know, when you compete against Mother Nature and her creatures, I don't care how determined you are not going to win every time. You and I compete against each other is one thing. But when you compete against another living creature that you can't see, it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
And that's where the word challenge comes in. You can be determined. I don't care how determined you are. You're not going to win every time when you compete against Mother Nature. There's so many elements that blend in. And I think that's the way the good Lord intended it to be. There's days you're going to win, there's days they're going to win, and more times than not, they're going to win. I don't care how much you know about it and how experienced you are, you're not going to win every time. And I've done this a long, long time, and I've learned a lot about the habits and the habitats of fish. I've gained a lot of experience. I've learned a lot about summer, fall, winter, spring, cold water, hot water, muddy water, clear water. I've learned how to fish top. I've learned how to fish 60, 70 feet of water. But I still cannot win every time I go. I just can't do I get skunked? Yeah, I get skunked.
Are you still learning stuff
Sure.
today?
The day I quit, the day I'm going to hang up. I'm going to hang it up. I don't catch fish every time I go. And if somebody tells you they do, hey, they got their fingers crossed because they don't catch them. You just can't win every time. I don't care how determined you are, or how experienced you are. When you compete against Mother Nature and her creatures, there's too many elements to compete with.
Too many variables.
Absolutely.
We're going to take our first break and come back with more. I'm having a blast here on YourPrimetimeSports.com with the legend, Bill Dance. We'll be right back.
You get big-time savings and hometown service. Always a bit Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, and Ram. At Baird, there's a difference you will clearly see. You're always a VIP. Saving service, great selection too. Baird does it all for you.
Retirement? It's never looked so good. Welcome to Chateau on the Ridge Assisted Living in Paragould, Arkansas. Say hello to fine dining and down-home living, where around-the-clock security and peace of mind are always at your fingertips. And front row seats to the best shows, they're included. We call it Chateau on the Ridge. You can call
Make
it
the
home.
switch now to
Call or
Northie
visit
Banking.
today to get the
First National
whole
Bank provides me
scoop.
with totally free checking, and as a business owner, that helps keep my customers satisfied.
At First National, there are no fees and no hassles. Express yourself by choosing a debit card that fits your personality.
I switched my bank to First National because of no monthly debit card fees. Are you ready to switch?
First National Bank, the working bank for working people. Member FDIC.
Let us show you how easy switching can be.
Do you need insurance? If the answer is yes, let Chris Robinson and his staff at Chris Robinson's Insurance Agency handle your needs. Whether it's auto, life, business, or planning for your retirement, Chris Robinson's Insurance Agency is ready to serve you and your family. Come by Chris Robinson Insurance Agency, 1211 West Court Street in Paragould.
Good gravy, look at here. That is a mew, my boy. That right there is a monster. Where are you going? Look at size. Golly, look at size that bag. Oh, there he goes. Golly. Look at the size. Ooh, this thing. Here he comes. God, let me just touch you. That's all I want. God. It's so big it can't even move. Come on in here. Easy, easy, easy. Yes, sir. Golly. Boy, you got it, didn't you? I'm kind of nervous. All right. Boy. See you. Yeah. Special times.
That was from the 90s. That was on your show, and that made me think of a question that I wanted to ask you, because that was a 13-pound bass, but that's not even close to the biggest freshwater fish you've ever caught, because there's some huge monster catfish out there in the world, and you just recently caught some of them. What's the biggest one you ever caught?
Well, you know, we had a phenomenal year on the Mississippi River this year as a result of low water, and a lot of guys did. A lot of fishermen out of Memphis fishing north and south of Memphis, and even guys on up toward Osceola, Arkansas, and southern Missouri. But I think the reason that this year was such a great year on the river is the fact that we did have low water. And the Mississippi is just a tremendous fishery. I caught 3 of my biggest this year, and I caught them all in September. I had a 73, a 75, an 83, and I caught 110. And the 110 missed the Tennessee state record by a couple of pounds.
110. Is that the biggest one you ever caught?
Oh, right, yeah, there? 110 and a quarter. And that was
and that was this year.
Yeah.
You caught the biggest fish in freshwater you've ever caught in your entire life in the year 2012.
Right.
That is amazing. That is fantastic. It's been a wild year on the Mississippi River with it going up and down so much.
Yeah, we've had an extremely low river, and barge traffic's had a fit on the river trying to maneuver up, north and south on the river. And of course, we've had a tiny river this year, and I think that's contributed a lot to it. And it's confined the bait fish to certain areas, and we've had slow currents, and it's enabled the fishermen to it's confined the fish. Although even with low water, there's still no guarantee the fish are going to bite, but if you stay at it long enough, you can catch fish. Both of the biggest fish I caught, you would think it would have been in extremely deep water, but both of these fish came out of, one was 42, the 2 biggest were 42, and the 75 came out of 46 feet of water. In fact, even at 58-degree water, which the river is now, a good buddy of mine from over at Brighton, we fished Saturday in all that wind. And Roger Willie, he caught a 52 and a 46, so they're still biting.
That's amazing. What about saltwater? What's the biggest fish you ever caught in saltwater?
The biggest saltwater is, let me see, I want to say about 185, and that was a grouper.
185-pound grouper. Whereabouts were you?
We were off Marco Island, fishing with good buddy Roland Martin and Johnny Mars, founder of Bass Pro Shop.
I wouldn't know what to do.
And that's really not that big for a grouper.
I wouldn't know what to do if I had a fish that was even more than 20 pounds on the end of it. I've never caught anything bigger than 15 pounds ever.
Just hang on.
Just hang on. Just hang on. We go out, David and I go out catching these, they call them grinnels.
Yeah,
they're bowfins.
Yeah,
is what they are.
Counterfeit
and
bass.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They look like a trout even. They look sort of like a trout. And they get huge and they fight, and they're worthless fish. They're absolutely worthless fish, but they fight like you would never believe.
Well, see, we get hung up with we have psychological hang-ups. We fish for the fun of catching fish and the fight. The fight of a fish. When the bout's over, you say, "Boy, I tell you what, that was fun." sure, a lot of us eat fish, a lot of us throw fish back, but there's a lot of good edible fish. You know, a crappie is really not a real fighter. He doesn't just give us a good fight. You know, but he's
pan-fried crappie.
There you go. There you go. He's great table fare.
Yeah.
But now Grinnell will drown a crappie. As far as you hook them tail to tail, a Grinnell will give you a great fight. But the fun of fighting, the fun of catching a Grinnell is a lot of fun to catch him.
Sure.
But we have psychological hang-ups. We said, yeah, but you can't eat him. But you had a lot of fun catching him.
That
That's
fish.
right.
We do. We go out to the St. Francis River.
That's right.
And that thing's loaded with those things. And they're surfacing all the time. And you just barely put a little white grub in front of them, and they'll attack that thing.
Yeah, you go to the Tennessee River and you catch these big drum, and they will fight you. They will give you more 3-minute rounds, and when the bout's over, you'll scratch your head and say, well, who won the fight? But it's like eating a log jam rat. You wouldn't eat one. But the fun of actually catching him, I mean, it's just a lot of fun to catch one. It's like a big tarpon. A tarpon in saltwater, you don't eat them, but they're just so much fun to catch. So a lot of fish, in freshwater especially, we just have psychological hang-ups. If they're not edible, they're trash fish.
Exactly.
But they're still fun to catch, you know.
Do you eat a lot of fish?
Yeah, I like fish. I like crappie, fried crappie. I eat a lot of, and I like catfish. I'll go in restaurants a lot of times. That's the first thing I'll eat, fried catfish.
Fishes all day and all night, and he goes to a restaurant and orders fish.
And I love tuna fish sandwiches.
That's you would think that you'd get tired of fish after a while.
Yeah,
but you don't. You like.
I throw back a lot of fish, but
sure.
I keep some fish.
Now, the fishermen that are pro fishermen today, out there on the tour today, are there any of them that really impress you that you say that guy's going somewhere?
Well, there's a lot of them that are extremely good. They're very versatile fishermen. They know a lot about the habits and the habitats of the fish that they're after. There's a bunch of good fishermen on today. I mean, extremely good fishermen.
Do you ever wish you were still out there competitive fishing on the tour at all?
I'm competitive even today. I haven't learned. I hadn't lost what I learned from competing. I'm still very competitive. We as a human race, we're all competitive. Whether we compete in a tournament, if you and I are if we're just sitting there watching a ball game, if Arkansas is playing Tennessee, you're pulling for the Razorbacks, I'm pulling for the Volunteers.
Right.
And we're competitive. You say, hey, I'm going to bet you right now, bet you Coca-Cola, they miss his field goal. All right, I'll take you. I bet he makes a field goal. If you play golf, you're competitive. If you sell insurance, you want to be the top salesman of the month. If you sell cars, you want to you want to be the top salesman of the month. If you drive to work, you play little mental games with yourself. You said, yesterday I made 9 traffic lights. I'm going to see if I can make 10 today. We play mental games. We're just, by nature, we are just competitive. And we're the same way when we fish. Whether we fish just one-on-one, we're trying to compete. We're competing. Whether we compete in tournaments, we compete. Whether we play golf, we're trying to, in a foursome, or I don't know anything about golf. But
me neither.
I don't either. I think they used it, only reason they named it golf because they used up all the other 4-letter words.
Yeah, the other 4-letter
But we're competitive. There are some good fishermen out there today. Exceptionally good fishermen that can fish, as I said, throughout the seasons, through all kind of conditions. They can fish lakes, they can fish moving water, they can fish shallow, they can fish deep, they can adapt. They're very experienced. But even then, they're not successful 100% of the time. You take like Kevin, for instance. Kevin is an exceptionally good fisherman.
Kevin Van Dam.
Right. Kevin's an exceptionally good fisherman, but he's not successful every time. I know down at Shreveport, a year or so ago, he came walking in. I was standing there by the elevator, and he just had his head down. And I said, "You gonna have those days, Kevin?" He said, he just shook his head, and he just bombed out. And I said, "I've been there, done that." And he said, "Makes you feel bad, doesn't it?" I said, "Sure, it makes you feel bad." But I said, "You keep competing. You got to accept defeat if you compete, and you're not going to be successful every time you do it." And I said, "You're too good, and you'll come back." And he did. He came right back. So you just you're going to have good times, you're going to have bad times. But Kevin's an exceptionally good fisherman. He's
He's the number one name right
Yep.
now, the name that most
Yep.
people recognize.
he's
in the
exceptionally
sport.
good. He's very, very good at what he does.
Tell the folks where they can find your show one more time. NBC Sports Network, that used to be Versus Network.
Right, we're on
satellite, on Dish Network and Direct TV, I guess,
Right,
and
we're on
some cable systems.
Right. You can catch us on NBC Sports on Saturdays and Sundays. And then right after the first of the year, you'll catch us on NBC Sports from Freshwater and the Outdoor Channel.
Which we do have in our neck of the woods. We do get the Outdoor Channel. So we don't get the NBC Sports Channel where we live on the cable system, but we do have the Outdoor Channel. So
Right.
we'll get to see you on TV
If you
again.
get direct, you can get NBC. And,
Yeah, we got cable. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got cable, I got cable. Well, we can get the Outdoor Channel, and we'll get to see you again. And I'm glad to see you today. Thank
Good
you
to be
so
with you,
much.
partner. Thank you so much.
And we're going to go fishing with you someday. I
I'd
swear
love
we're
for
going
you
to come
to.
find you and go fishing with you. This is Bill Dance, and I'm Dave Grimm on Your Primetime Sports.